Hey everyone, let's talk hierarchies in Jira. So I'm going to cover exactly what tasks, stories, epics, subtasks, initiatives, and even programs are in just a moment, but let's go over exactly how to implement this in Jira first. So we're going to go to our settings on the top right, we're going to hit the little cogwheel, then we'll go to work items. We get taken to the work type screen immediately, but the first thing I'm going to check is one right above that, which is the work type hierarchy. So in some cases, you might already have something set up above your epics, in which in this particular instance, I have the initiatives, then I have project and feature, and then I have program. But if you don't have that, all you have to do is hit create the level, but you have to make sure that the work type exists first. So in your work types, if you already have initiative, great. If you don't, just click add work type, give your work type a name of initiative, and then hit create. Once that's added, I already have one. You could go back to your work type hierarchy, click the add level, and then you'll give this level a name. This is not the name of the work item, it's the name of the level. You can name it either the same thing as the work type or something different. And then you just select whatever work type is going to be in this level. You could select multiple if you'd like. In this example, I have campaign, project, and feature on the same level of program/feature. But you could do this for as many hierarchies as you'd like. I don't really know of any limits. I probably wouldn't go above 5, 6, maybe 7 at the most. It's usually best practice to keep this a little bit more minimal. But once you have that added, the second thing we need to do is head over to our project, and then in the project settings, we'll go over to our work types, we'll hit the types, and then we'll click the actions on the top right, and we'll edit the work types, and we need to make sure we actually add this into the project before we can use it. So we'll find whatever we need to inside of this available issue types, and we'll drag it over into our issue type current scheme for the current scheme. And I'm just going to use campaign as an example. I'll drop that in there, and then we'll hit the save button on the bottom left. And now we could use our brand new work type with our specific level of hierarchy. So you can go in and start creating your hierarchies at this point, and go crazy, kind of have whatever you'd like. But why would you really want to use this inside of Jira? And what is the typical definition of like a subtask, task, epic, and what's a super practical use case for them? Well, to be honest, you could use them for anything, and I don't typically like to limit them to any particular thing because a lot of teams work in a very specific way. That being said, for software development, you typically have your task, your story, maybe your bug, your feature, and then all of that rolls up into an epic. And typically you'll have your subtask on the lowest level, something like this. That would roll up into a task or a story, and you might have multiple subtasks. And then you get multiple tasks and stories that roll up into an epic. And an epic is essentially just a larger body of work that captures multiple tasks and stories. One of the ways I actually like to think about this is sort of from a time perspective. A subtask should essentially be like a really quick mark it done type of thing. Usually doesn't span more than like a day or two for the actual implementation of an individual subtask. Whereas a task can be multiple days or span like a week or two. And then you get into your epics, which can span multiple weeks, rarely multiple months, but sometimes that can happen. So typically you're looking at like a week time frame, you're looking at a day time frame for your story task level, and then for your subtask level, you're looking at like a much less than a day, like usually within a day time frame. But where it gets really interesting is when you could go even higher than that and you have your initiatives. So initiatives are typically branching from multiple epics. So if I zoom out a little bit further, you could see that now we have multiple epics, which each have multiple tasks, stories, and multiple subtasks. So where these were at a week level, these are typically spanning months, sometimes a few weeks to a few months. Usually initiatives are used for things that encompass multiple epics and are very large projects. That being said, there are levels above that that are very common, but these typically span multiple months, maybe quarters in some scenarios. So you might have like a 3-month initiative, which is 1 quarter. Then above that, we can have a program. And again, you could kind of customize these however you'd like, use them however you want. Each organization is a little bit different and uses Jira and hierarchies uniquely, but a program can span multiple initiative across multiple months and multiple quarters. So you might be looking at a program spanning 3 to maybe 6, 9, maybe even 12 months in some scenarios. So that's the typical hierarchies, and you can see how as you start to zoom out, it makes a little bit more sense and can get pretty broad, pretty crazy, pretty quick. So that's why you don't want a lot of these hierarchies, especially when you're doing a lot of things that require a lot of subtasks and tasks. So you have so much work items to actually deal with. For example, if you had more programs and then you had multiple programs rolling up into something else, then you have like a whole bunch more hierarchy levels rolling up into a new work item, which then spans across multiple programs. And the more of these you have, the more complex it gets. So again, my recommendation here is to stick to like 5 to 6 at the most. A good rule of thumb is having your subtasks, your tasks, your epics, and then your initiatives. I don't find use case often for programs or above that. That being said, every organization is different and you may find some use case for it. If you go above program and one other hierarchy, you're probably edging towards like the max limit of what you should have. And if you're going above that, you're probably doing something wrong, and you should maybe take a look at how you're structuring your work and see if there's another alternative. Because again, the more of these you have, the more complex it becomes to manage and actually represent that data within Jira. So hopefully this helps and gives you a quick tutorial on how to actually use and run your initiatives in Jira. Real quick, I know this looks like a lot, and if you'd rather just have me and my team help implement exactly what I'm showing you in this video, that is exactly what we do. We're currently opening up 4 more slots for our Jira strategy. We only run 4 of these per month. If you're interested, hit the first link in the description below.